All right, welcome everybody to our live stream chat on high school sports and what's next in this pandemic. My name is Mike Dougherty. I'm a longtime writer with the Journal News and lohud.com down in Westchester, Rockland, Putnam counties. I'm joined by James Johnson, longtime sports writer up in Rochester at the Democrat and Chronicle. And we partnered recently on what is a series of stories by the Gannett properties statewide and up and down the East Coast on a look at how this coronavirus pandemic has impacted different aspects of our life. And obviously, with our lane being high school sports, that's something that we went back and we kind of broke down, what happened, what were some of the things that were handled well, what were some of the things that maybe were bobbled. And then a large part of the story is what's next. That's the story itself is going to post online on Monday across our various properties. And then we'll print at some point during the week. So look out for that. But James and I are going to discuss, we're going to kind of focus on what's next, because that seems to be the thing foremost in everybody's mind right now. As we speak, Governor Cuomo is on a conference call with the media. He has given authorization to reopen the schools. He has provided a little bit of guidance in terms of what the individual districts must do as far as having their individual plans approved by the state. And then a couple subcategory things that he just added in. I'm told, too, that he did answer a question about high school sports. He termed that an ongoing discussion. So we're still kind of in limbo here. I will say, too, that we obtained last night a memo that the executive director of the New York State High School Athletic Association directed to somebody in Governor Cuomo's office, asking if NYSFA could authorize off-season workouts for the high school sports, which right now are off limits. And I've been told there has yet to be a reply on that. So obviously when they say ongoing, this is going to be something that's ongoing again for a while. So James, I'm going to throw it to you since you handled a big chunk of the story about what's next. So why don't you just kind of walk us through what you found and what we should expect going forward?
This revelation or letter to the governor asking for preseason workouts to start again. This is going to be well received if the state goes ahead and decides that, we can allow this. I think it's step one. I think it's also kind of like all of this stuff has been kind of like a buildup, a dam of questions, and now there seems to be a little bit more light, I guess, or direction as far as being able to get things up and rolling again. I still have my doubts. I mean, I don't know if we know enough yet about the disease or about the coronavirus, to put people out there and have contact high school sports. I think that they really want to go towards the proposal for the 10-week increments after the first. But your news today is a pretty big step. I mean, just for formally asking the governor, can we at least get the kids back together with their coaches? I know that will be well received if the governor goes ahead and does it.
That's been a huge point of contention all summer long, and it hasn't been helped by the fact that the state has allowed private clubs to go forward and resume at least some form of individual training. Many of them are even doing loosely organized competitions, and then several are traveling out of state to compete where the regulations aren't as stringent. And those club teams could actually contract to use the same high school properties that the high school teams would use. So the big question and the big point of contention is, if it's safe for an 8th grader to go practice with his lacrosse team, why is it not safe for a 9th grader to go work out with his soccer team?
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, and that's where the debate is the liveliest.
Yeah, I mean, this frustration is kind of grown and receded back, that it's gone on for so long. You know, the high school coaches feel like they're trained. You know, they're even more trained, more qualified in some instances to do something like this amid these conditions, as opposed to volunteer youth coaches. I mean, you know, obviously they respect volunteer youth coaches, but their argument is, we're trained to do this. This is why we went through all of those classes and certifications and things like that. While that may not be the case on the youth sports side, it's bizarre. I mean, we're watch the team from AAU basketball team go from here down to Florida, and we know what a hot spot that is. And but at the same time, you know, you have high school coaches arguing, well, how come we can't get 20 or 30 kids together, space them out, having them work in groups of 5 or 10, and monitor that, because they really, psychologically, they really need it.
Right. And I think, to kind of spin it back around now to the high school side of it, if they could get this going, this is step one, because no matter what comes next for I don't know that we can ever talk about guaranteeing the health of a student in the middle of a pandemic, but
Right.
we can take steps to make sure that they're physically prepared, and we can help improve. We just did a story last week talking with some experts on how the lack of sports and the break in this routine, the lengthy hiatus, has impacted student athletes in terms of their mental and emotional well-being. And obviously it has really negative effects, and that's something that has to be considered. But again, This is such a tricky situation with the virus itself. We don't know, exactly how it's transmitted. We've got a pretty good idea, but there's no certainties in any of this stuff. And we are starting to see athletes at the professional level, even, and some college athletes, where the lingering effects, they've had COVID-19, and the lingering effects could put them at risk for heart issues, lung issues. I mean, there are concerns that we just don't have the research. So we can't overlook that part of the discussion, because this is going to be a tricky situation. But getting them in physical shape and then bringing them back with their friends is a big step one.
Yeah, I'm starting to really believe that. I don't even think they really want to get back to quote unquote prepare for the season. I think they want to get everyone back more for the psychological effect of it. I mean, we are basically stuck as far as high school sports go, because you want to do it, but we all know you just can't charge on out there, and you're talking about people's health, and you're talking about children's health, and a district's not gonna sign up for that. I'm assuming there's all type of potential litigation problems with that. I mean, are athletes going to have to sign special waivers in order to get back out there, in order for high school sports to come back out? How much testing is going to be required? I mean, it's a long line of questions. And what the pro leagues are finding out is, as you get closer to when it's time to when it's time to play, you start to think of all of the logistics and everything, and the potential effects. So.
And that too is going to be, the logistic part of this is insane. We've talked to athletic directors who tell us, we're ready to go. Just tell us what to do, or that we can go. They're waiting for clearance. So they've ordered hand whistles, hand washing stations. They've trained their coaches. They've set up procedures. They've counted how many seats their bleachers can hold in case they have to do reduced fans. They've discussed policies for enforcing the potential for no fans if that's allowed. And the state, NISFA, the plan that they put out, right now they're leaning on, the delayed September 21st start. If that doesn't work out, they've got 3 or 4 segmented seasons that they may go to, which would, give student athletes reduced seasons. Right now, there's overlap, which would prevent a lot of 2 and 3 sport athletes from competing in what they usually do. So like James said, I mean, there are a lot of logistical hurdles to go over. And one of the things, too, that we can't forget, this is going to be an expensive proposition, bringing sports back. And what this could also do is we could create a further divide between the haves and have-nots. And we all know who those districts are. And it is going to be even more of an ordeal for these districts that, you know, year after year have budget issues and don't have JV and don't have the facilities and don't have the administrators and don't have the coaches that other districts that are in more affluent situations enjoy. So, I mean, there are so many angles to this story. And I mean, frankly, I think James probably tell you the same thing. We thought, uh-oh, pandemic, no high school sports, you know, we're in trouble here. What are we going to do? Well, you know, there's been a different story almost every single day out of this. So I don't anticipate that changing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to unravel. They really emphasized wanting the schools to get settled in, working day to day first before they worried about sports. That was coming from NISFA. So I could see them deciding, you know, why don't we just wait and we'll go to we already have the 10-week segment program kind of set up. But, you know, if I'm a smaller school and we have a lot of them up here upstate, you know, what do you do? I mean, it's almost putting a crimp in your entire athletic program, because you rely on multi-sport athletes to go from team to team to team.
Yeah, the small schools are really, really concerned about that. And you know, another thing that you have to consider too is the fact that if I'm a high school athlete and I have college plans and I want to compete at that level, am I even going to play a 10-game season at the high school, or am I going to stick with my club team? You know, that's an issue, especially down here in Westchester with AAU basketball, with club lacrosse, where we push a lot of student athletes to the next level. You know, you're going to have to make a decision. And even if you decide I'm going to play, I'm a lacrosse player, I'm going to play the high school lacrosse season, I don't want to miss that. You know, maybe you won't play football then because you don't want to kill yourself on the football season and go straight into lacrosse season and then into your club season in the summer. So, you know, everybody has a lot of tough decisions to make going forward. I think, you know, finding out if the high schools can begin off-season conditioning is step one. And then, you know, I really think, I think we've kind of held back a little bit. I know personally, I haven't done any columns yet. I don't want to pick on the state for the way that they've handled this. It's been a little bit clumsy, but I think going forward now, we need some transparency. We need to know who's making the decisions at the state level. They need to communicate more with NISFA. Then NISFA can communicate more with the high schools that are in its membership. But there has been a divide or a blockage or an outage, whatever you want to call it. But we need, you know, this is important. There are too many, hundreds of thousands of athletes across the state at the high school level. You know, it's time going forward that we know who's making the decisions, you know, what their concerns are, and you know, let's put some clarity in this situation. And I think it's time that the state steps up. I mean, obviously sports has to be further down the list when it comes to priority. I mean, when we had the hospitalizations where they were, you know, that shouldn't even have been in the discussion, but we've reached a point now, you know, where this is part of, I don't know that we're in a recovery stage yet, but this is something that I think they can handle. And I think the direction needs to be out in the open. We know it's become kind of a political football. You know, there are Twitter sites already hammering away at Governor Cuomo, and we know it's a difficult decision. But I do think there needs to be a little bit more transparency in terms of what's going on, because we are getting to that point where decisions need to be made.
I really think we all know who's making the call. I think that's the governor himself, and maybe the state health department. Like you said, they've probably been working down a grocery list here, and to be honest with you, I'm pretty shocked that NISFA is just now formally asking for permission. I would be very surprised if that was the case, if they waited till now to ask for that. Why not do that earlier?
Yeah, agreed. And maybe this, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Perhaps there was an unofficial request.
Yeah.
I do understand that that the channels aren't always plugged in, going back and forth, or at least that's the impression that I get. But going forward, I think we're still kind of in wait and see mode. If we're going to wrap this up, I mean, I think we're in wait and see mode. We're keeping an eye on what's going on around here. Connecticut is kind of going forward with a delayed fall season. Yeah. Pennsylvania had planned to do something similar, but I see yesterday the governor came out and said that he strongly recommends that all high school and club sports be put on hold until January 1st. So, I mean, you can see the concerns and you can see the different degrees of response. Some states are pushing ahead, some are putting things on hold. But, if I had kids that were playing high school sports, thankfully mine are done and graduated. I don't have to stress with all of you. But, I think you need to plan for some waiting. I think you need to be ready to make quick adjustments. Maybe go buy the cleats, but don't invest in anything else. Ask your school district what's going on. Have your athletic directors ask the section 1 coordinators and the section executive director, whichever section you're in, and then have them push up to the state. I mean, we have to start encouraging people to go get the answers that are needed. So I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's still more waiting. It feels like there's maybe a little bit more light, because we know the big piece is, if the schools weren't open, then there wouldn't be any sports. There's no debate. There's no what do we do or whatever. You can't do anything as far as NISFA is concerned. So the governor has come out and said, we will allow schools to reopen. And that gives a little bit more of an avenue, but I can really see them saying, let's wait. Let's wait.
Right. And I think too, James, and I think James and I are probably in agreement. We've spoken about this in the past. I think one thing that we need to do is give a shout out to two groups here, because part of this story was also what was handled right, what went well. And the shutdown was hard. It was a killer blow to everybody that's involved in high school sports. Yeah. But I really, really want to give a shout out to the student athletes and how they handled it. And I know we both talked to a lot of kids trying to get reaction. And yes, they were sad. And yes, they were disappointed. And yes, there were tears, but they got it. Their perspective was outstanding. The way they responded was great. A lot of them got into community initiatives and helped out. And then the second group that we need to give a shout out or a pat on the back to is the coaches. We've got coaches, I know, both in Rochester and down here in Section 1, that only got partial payment for the spring. We have coaches from the fall that haven't signed contracts yet and may not get paid if sports are shut down. But these coaches are still working. They're still coaching. They're doing things online. They're dropping equipment off at people's houses. They're keeping their kids engaged. They're almost social workers out there. So, those two groups, keep doing what you're doing, because that's the only way we're going to get through it.
Yeah. It's a lot of devotion. I mean, this thing has reminded us. You get a reminder every day about how deep this has penetrated our society, and it makes you shake your head. But hopefully we're on the road back here.
Fingers crossed, or sanitized fingers crossed. Let's say that way. So. Again, James, thanks for your help with this story. It's a good read. I'm telling you, it's worth your time. It'll post on our different Gannett properties on Monday and then print during the week. So appreciate everybody for tuning in, giving us a moment of your time. Reach out to us if you have any thoughts. We're around. We're busy. We're chasing the stories. So, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more on this front to come. So thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yep. Stay safe.